Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to this week's live Path to Prosperity weekly webinar. Um, Welcome to all the students, new and veteran students. Most of you are investor agent program students, although we from time to time have people in on the rental program, the flipping program, property management, and wholesaling. If you are new, actually, I think most of you are veterans tonight. Thomas, you might be new. That's right. Everybody's in mute mode except for me, and I'm willing and do unmute you from time to time. So we used a chat box for typing in our questions, and we can interact with each other too. It is being recorded, so you can watch it. You get the recording the next day from Beverly, and she also gives you updates on all the systems and schedules and things like that. So you might recognize that there's no webinar schedule for next week, and that's true for the most people. Anybody that's on the global investor team, we do have a special session on Monday night. We're going to go over the use of the lead gen system and also some scripting and things like that for talking to other agents. That's just for the global investor agent team on Monday night. For general purposes, every 12 weeks, the 13th week, we take off. We just started this year doing that. So you might notice a pattern. The first webinar of the month is always the first Monday, then it's the next Tuesday, then the following Wednesday, and the following Thursday. So as you might imagine, there's 52 weeks in a year, and there's 4 13-week periods. So that means for every 13 weeks, there won't be a scheduled webinar. I'll use that time for special purposes like next week. And again, enough said about the admin stuff. So what I thought I would do first is let's go over the closings, okay? And definitely participate, ask questions. This is something I learned probably 15 years ago. And this one's a game changer, okay? So we'll do the one on listings first. Hopefully you can all see that without too much interference. Okay, good. Let me drop this down a wee bit here. I can see the whole flip chart. Okay. Okay. Now, just to paint a picture here. So we're first going to, so you can see the chart there. We're first going to go over closings for when you have a listing appointment, okay? So this is presuming you've already got the listing appointment. In other words, you've done your marketing, people responded to you, and you did your initial telephone call, phone interview, if you will, gather some information, and you're now going on the listing appointment. Or it could be a follow-up listing appointment in the case of you competing with other agents, which will happen from time to time. It doesn't happen a lot. I mean, most consumers, it's like the first agent that shows up gets the deal, right? But you'll have some consumers who've actually sold or bought a house before, and they want to interview a couple of agents, okay? So this helps solve that one scenario. If you're in competition, you might want to write this down so you understand when to use this close. So if you know you're in competition, you would use this close, okay? Also, if you have a consumer who's, in your opinion, being unreasonable about their listing, about the value of the house, the price, which is pretty common, this helps you overcome that, okay? And more importantly, it also helps you actually get commitment right there on the spot, actual signing a listing agreement, okay? This solves that too. It's a cathartic process. It engages the consumer, okay? So everybody okay so far? You got to kind of get the picture here. And the scenario we're picking up here, assuming you've already got the client, and is one of those 3 scenarios, okay? And you can use this all the time if you want to, but I really pull it out when I know I really want to nail this one, or I know I've got competition or something like that, okay? So let me make sure the volume. Okay. Hopefully everybody can hear me. I couldn't hear because my speaker was off, but the microphone should have been on. Okay, so back to this. Here's the scenario as far as being prepared. You don't have to bring a flip chart like this, but you should bring a pad of paper, like a notepad of paper or a legal pad of paper, okay? And definitely bring a couple of pens and pencils, right? So the scenario we use, it's like we're gonna use what we call a decision matrix. This is the same format as a decision matrix. It's also somewhat similar to usually page 3 or 4 in an appraisal, where an appraiser will take comparable properties, okay, and line them up like side by side, okay, and you can see all the variables, number of bedrooms, bathrooms, garage, yard, so forth and so on. And they put in here adjustments, okay? So it's a similar layout. It's not an appraisal, but it's a similar layout, okay? We use it because we're going to be comparing properties side by side. So legal pad of paper, pen or pencil, and always be prepared with some properties, the actual printouts of the properties, okay? To basically substantiate what you're showing them on your legal pad of paper, right? Now, another thing we can assume here is this. Sometimes you'll have consumers say, hey, I think our house is like this one down the street or the one down the other corner. And by the way, I found these online. Here's the Zillow printouts of these properties, okay? So what I always do is if I feel like that's going to happen, I'll say, please send me what you have, okay? And I'll use that and I'll come prepared. And we'll lay this out on your kitchen table and we'll get everything nailed down. We'll call it the button up, okay? So first things first is column one is the subject property. This is their property, the property that's owned by the people whom you're sitting with at their coffee table or the kitchen table, okay? I prefer a kitchen table or dining room table myself. Coffee table, it's too easy to sit on a couch. People, when you're at a kitchen table, like it means business, right? So that's the subject property. Now let's say they've got one or the two of their own properties they want to use to compare to because they think they're close. Well, you would make them maybe columns 2 and 3, okay? Or column 2 if they just have one. And then you should always be prepared with 3 comps at a minimum, 3 to 5 comps, okay? And you want to make sure you have columns for each of those 2 or 3 properties that you bring in, all right? And one of them should be the one that's like an appraiser does, is the actual one you'll make adjustments to and make it the closest match, right? Remember, an appraiser doesn't take an average. They'll show comps and they'll take the one that's closest to the subject property and make that the one that they adjust against. That's what an appraiser does, right? So you're sitting there at the table, husband and wife typically, all right? And you start drawing in this, and this is, you're doing this in front of them. You're not coming prepared with this chart. You're literally going to draw this in front of them. Draw the box, right? And all the columns and all the rows right in front of them, right? And up top, you put the addresses of the properties and you have the listings and you lay them out in front of them, right? And in here, you write in all the variables, bedrooms, bathrooms, garage, basement, yard, square footage. Is there a pool? The neighborhood, like if there's a rating on the neighborhood, the walkability factor. And finally down here is the actual price. That's the actual price, okay? So what you do now is you hand them the pen, okay? Everybody follow me on that? You're not gonna do this filling in. You're gonna give them the pen and have them fill it in, all right? You're gonna be holding the listings, right? So now they got the pen and you say, okay, go ahead and write in the number of bedrooms your house has, right? And then the number of bathrooms, and you just have them fill this in. Then you take, if they brought a property, you take the property that they brought, okay? And you have them make that property number 2, and you have them fill these fields in this column for that property, okay? All the way down to the price, right? These are actual solds. So, and then you're gonna take your properties and go through, you're gonna call out, okay, this one has 3 bedrooms, this one has, 4 bathrooms, this one has a, 3-car garage, whatever. And you have them keep writing this stuff in, all right? Same thing with the 4th property and finally the 5th property, all right? Now, in my experience, I've never gone past 6 properties. 6 is the max, preferably 3 to 5, okay? It's just too much information. The human brain, this is my own observation over years and years of showing properties. Turns out 6 is the magic number, okay? Now, so you're gonna do that, you're gonna everything is filled in, all right? You're gonna have them go through and you have the listing. So say, look, let's look at this listing here. Let's look at your property, all right? Would you say this is a spot on match for your property? Or is it more or less or bigger or different, whatever? And you have them check or circle the one or ones that are closest to their property. Remember, this is the subject property. So this one's 1 bedroom less, this one's 1 bedroom more. You get the picture, right? Maybe this one had 4 bedrooms and they would circle that one because theirs has 4 bedrooms, right? And you do the same thing with the bathrooms, right? This one has two bathrooms. Maybe this one has 2 bathrooms. They would circle that, okay? You see where I'm going with this? And basically what you're doing is you have them go down the list, go down the rows, and circle the ones. It could be 2, it could be 2 or 3 have 2 bedrooms, or 2 or 3 have 4 bedrooms, okay? You have them circle all these, and at the end, you look at the ones that have the most circles, and you look at their prices. You see what I'm saying? And this is, they're doing all the work here. This is, you're not doing this. You're just basically calling out. It's like you're calling the plays, but they're the one executing the plays, okay? Now, at the end, clearly 1 or 2 of these is going to stand out above the rest. And you go down and you look at the prices there and you say, look, well, here's what you think your price should be, right? And it turns out your property's more like this property or this property, right? And then you use process elimination to say between these 2 properties, which one is closest to your property? And they have to pick. Maybe it's this one. They go down there and say, well, look at that price. Now think about it. This is you speaking to them. Other consumers are out there and they're smart, just like you. I mean, you're a smart person, right? And guys, this is me, quote unquote, giving you the script. So I'm speaking to the client. Now you're a smart person, right? Obviously, you've done a good job. You've got a nice house. Clearly, you're smart and you're good with your money. Well, as you might imagine, so are other people who want a house just like this. Well, if they have a house like this, they're probably smart and they've probably done their homework. So they probably have the same kind of information we have. Now think about it. Would these smart people overpay or pay this price down here like you got it? Or do you think that they're going to be more likely to pay something like this for a house as closest to your house? So which one of these do you think, and circle it, is the one closest to yours? And they circle that price, okay? And then you say this, you say, well, how soon would you like to have your house sold? When would you like to start getting your house on the market? And you close them, you button them up, okay? Now, that's the quick version without any role playing or any kind of objections and stuff like that. I just want to give you the basic layout and the steps to follow and how you get them to laser be focused on what's closest to their house. And they're doing all the work, writing in, circling, they're drawn to it. It's their work. You didn't do the work, they did the work, okay? And then, of course, famous closes is, basically, how soon would you like to have your money? In this case, how soon would you like to have your house sold? And chances are they're looking to buy something else anyways. So, in any case, that's pretty much it. Let me open up the lines here. That's close number 1. We got some others coming up. But any questions on this? Any questions or comments? Has anybody used this before? I mean, surely you may have used this. See, oh, Tanya, hey Tanya, didn't see you in the beginning there. Good to see you. So Doug Campbell, hey Alicia, how you doing? Good to see you. So give me some questions or comments. Betty, have you used this before? I mean, this is, to me, one of the classic closes. And every time I pull this out, I can't think of a single time where I didn't ultimately get the close. I might not get it that night because they might say, well, we're going to take this under revisement and we'll call you tomorrow. We'll decide what we're going to do. And I don't think I've ever knocked out a closing using this technique. Let's see, David Edwards, something similar. Oh, similar. I see, David. I'm sorry. Come close. Just don't draw the diagram. Yeah. So, Doug, I tell you what. This is anytime you can get the consumer engaged, physically engaged, and they're doing the work. It's like it's their work, and the psychologically, I guess, the subconscious brain's thinking, well, how can I argue with my own work? That's probably more likely what's happening inside their subconscious mind. In any case, I have a recording of this. And I'll make sure Beverly sends that recording out tomorrow to you. It's just me doing it on my own without any webinar. I'm sorry, without an audience going on here. Okay, that's close number 1. Now, let's see, Tom Silvestri, which price point do you use this at? Will it work? 1 to 3 million market? Yeah, Tom, great question. This is mostly used with single family homes, owner occupant properties. Now, having said that, I have used something similar with new investors trying to break into the business, right? Or somebody that inherited a property, a duplex that was being rented, they had no idea what it was worth. I would use it for them. But for the most part, this is a mainstream closing. Never had a price point, even north of $1 million, that this didn't work at, because human nature is human nature. And by the way, people who have a lot of money generally are good with their money, and they'll appreciate something like this. In fact, I've had people say, they like, hey, congratulations, you got the deal. That was a brilliant maneuver. They called it a maneuver. It was an accountant. And yeah, I got the listing, So in any case, all right, let's do this. There's one more I want to show you, all right? And then we'll go into what happens when people bring up the COVID objection, all right? Get my water here. So this one I call the tailgate close, right? And this is what I use when out with people showing houses. This is me representing the buyer. Typically, I do this with investors buying houses they're going to flip or they're going to buy rentals. But I've used it often, a lot with owner occupants too. It works great with owner occupants, right? You ever have an owner occupant, a buyer, and you can't seem to close them? You can't seem to button it up. It's just like everything you try, nothing's perfect. They're looking for the perfect house. And I always like to say, if you're looking for the perfect house, you need to build one, custom design. And as soon as they see the price and they say, we'll go find a resale. And I say, okay, you're going to have to make compromises, right? So in any case, let's give you the background here. In your learning modules, in modules, I think 5 and 6, so anybody that's been around a long time, all the modules were reworked back in the fall. So what was 5 modules is now 10 modules. The old module 2 is now modules 5 and 6, okay? And then it has like a 12-point process to follow to help consumers work with you on your terms, which is in their best interest, okay? So now we're at the point now where we're, in this example, we're at the day we're looking at the final list of properties. So let me just kind of paint the picture here. If you do this process correctly with investors, what should have happened so far is you've at first done your marketing. Remember, we use direct response targeted marketing, all right? They respond to you, okay? And then you either interview them when you get the phone call coming in, or you set an appointment and you interview them. And most of these interviews with investors, guys, are done over the phone. Investors are busy. They don't want to come to your office, okay? In fact, I think I've had an investor come to my office one time, and I've sold thousands of investment properties, right? They don't want to, and I realize that, so I make it so I either work with them at their house, at the property we go to visit, or whatever, Starbucks, somewhere close by where we're not wasting time driving somewhere. They don't want to drive an hour to get to your office and then drive an hour back. Okay, they want you to come to them. So assuming you're at this point where you've done you're interviewing them, right? I'm not going to go over the interview. In fact, we'll do another webinar where we do the screening interviewing. How about that? Questioning to get them to work with you, and then interviewing and screening. This is assuming you've done your interviewing and screening and you're ready to go find their properties. All right, what you do is you first start to feed them properties, okay? And you want to start about a week in advance of the showing. Let's assume you're going to go out, say, next Saturday. Well, that wouldn't be good because that's July 4th. Let's just say July 4th. Let's say you're Canadian and it's July 4th, okay? So you can go out on July 4th. You start at least a week in advance, identifying properties, feeding them properties, okay? And you have them go through the properties with the process that you learn in modules 5 and 6. They're going to go through and separate the wheat from the chaff, and they're going to narrow it down to no more than 10 or 15 properties. Then you're going to help them narrow it down further to the final 6. You're only going to look at 6 properties at a time, okay? So in any case, you've got to help them through the screening process of looking at properties, narrow it down to the ones that make the most sense to invest in without looking at the properties yet. Okay, we're going to do that next. This is doing the desktop work to determine what are the 6 best properties, okay? And so you determine what that is, you make your phone calls, get the appointment set up, okay? Now we're out in the field, all right? In the field, I always have my consumers bring with them pen, pencil, calculator if they want, or their phone, your cell phone, obviously, nowadays smartphones all have calculators, excuse me. Camera, of course, they can use their phone now. I do have some clients who like to take a video camera, right? Of course, you can now use your cell phone for that. But the point is, I want them to be prepared. And believe me, I also tell them they need to bring a flashlight and a ball cap, okay? Because sometimes we're going to properties that were, REOs and they've been boarded up or whatever. And, there's cobwebs sometimes and you just never know what you're going to find. So I always say, bring a hat. Trust me. I've had a lot of cobwebs in my hair over the years going through basements with clients. So have them bring a ball cap, you bring a ball cap, bring a flashlight to look at nooks and crannies and stuff like that. And also all the analysis sheets that we give you in your program, the information sheets and the analysis sheets, they're actually designed for you to give to your clients. So I tell them, print these off and bring these with you, okay? Now what's interesting, I know some of you are probably thinking right now, well, Gary, why wouldn't I bring the flashlight? Why would I bring the forms and get to them while they're there? It goes back to the conversation that Doug and I were having. Hey, Melanie, how you doing? Good to see you. Which is we want them to be involved as much as possible. And guys, I can't emphasize this enough. The basic psychology 101. If you do all the work and they're in the stands just watching, okay, they have no skin in the game. Nothing. You want your consumers, your clients to have skin in the game. In order to do that, because they haven't put any money down yet, you're going to have them get physically involved with the process. So I give them assignments. Bring your pencils, bring your pens, bring your forms, analysis forms, bring your information forms, bring your flashlight. Give them commands. You see what I'm saying here? So I know some of the veterans get this, but for the newer folks, just believe me. Actually, can I get any amen from any veterans? Like this is, you want to get your clients involved in the process, right? So in any case, this is what we're doing. Now, you go through the properties. I have them. We always start on the outside, by the way. And then Shika says, amen. That's right. Have them start on the outside, and then we go on the inside, look at the big ticket things like kitchens and bathrooms and furnaces and things like that, and foundations. And then we work our way down to the smaller ticket items like, carpeting and doors and windows and light bulbs and things like that. But they're the ones taking all the notes. They're the ones taking the pictures. They're the ones filling out the forms, okay? Now, at the end of the day, you've got your 6 listings, and they've got all their forms, okay? Throughout the day, I have them going through the information sheet and the analysis sheet and tallying up things. Like if they said we got to have, 6 new windows, well, I know that's going to be an average of $300 a window for most rental properties. And I have them tallied up, have them do the work as you're going through the properties. So at the end of the day, all you're doing is like a review, okay? So quick breath here. Everybody okay so far? This is that we're going to pick up here at the point where you've seen the 6 properties and you want to do what's called a button up. You want them to settle on one property, make an offer that night. So, and by the way, how many of you have been out recently? You go to look at a property, get listed that day, and you go home with your client, you make your offer only to find out the thing's already gone under contract. So this is how we get our clients to take action fast and move so they don't lose the properties, right? So imagine, I call this the tailgate close because literally, guys, well, when I was first starting out, I didn't drive a Mercedes. I didn't drive a Lincoln. I drove a pickup truck. That's what I drove, right? So, and it was funny because I would show up literally in jeans and a sweatshirt and, either sneakers or boots because I had a lot of properties. I was going to my job sites and stuff like that and doing this at the same time. And they actually like that, by the way. The investors like the fact they're like, we actually look like you're an investor. That's what they said. And I was, of course. So in any case, I would literally pull down the tailgate of my truck and lay out the 6 properties. I'm just going to imagine this is the tailgate of my truck. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay? Lay it out right in front of them, right in a row. I said, okay, now let's get your notes out and let's go through all of your notes for each one. We're going to plot in here, listing price, cost of rehab, and what we believe the ARV is. ARV is after repair value, and I supply that, okay? You have to supply the ARV. Don't rely on your consumers to do that. And of course, you have the listing price, and they're going to determine the rehab cost, okay? And you can teach them how to do that through the program. So you go through, you lay all that information out, and you look at them and say, okay, great. Now, I've pre-qualified you, I've interviewed you, I'm pretty sure you can only buy 1 or 2 of these. Would you agree? I'm going to say, yeah, we can only buy 1 or 2. So I say, okay, laying these out side by side, which one of these, if you could buy only 5 of these, there's 6 properties, you can only buy 5. Which one could you most likely do without? And they say, well, I could do without that one. So I'll take the listings here. Let me show you. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Remember Wizard of Oz? So I take that listing and I crumple it up and I literally throw it in the tailgate of my truck. It's gone. It's an emotional thing. It's a cathartic thing. That property's gone. You just said you can live without it. Poof, there it goes. Okay. And I say, okay, now you can only buy 4 properties. Of the 5 that are left, which one could you most likely do without? I said, well, I guess that one, because it's the smallest profit margin of the 5 that are left. I say, great, get rid of that one, take it, crumple it up, throw it away. Now, if you don't want to do that, you can just draw a big X through the listing and put it aside if you want to do that. But crumpling it up is like it means something, okay? In any case, here's what you want to do. Assuming they can only buy one, let's just say they can only buy one. You may only be able to get this down to 3 properties. You want to try to get them to at least 1, obviously, because you want to make an offer that night. But you might have possibly 2 or 3. Let's say you end up with 2 properties and they just like, we can't make up our mind. I'll say, no problem. Here's what I want you to do. And this is important. Remember, this is being recorded, so you don't have to write this down. But I want you to get this picture here. Remember, you're the bus driver and you're in control, and they're a passenger on your bus. Okay, so you're going to say, great. Let's go home. It's 7 p.m. now or 5 p.m., whatever it is. I want you to go through your notes again, make sure your numbers are square, and I'm going to have you take a picture or scan those in and send them to me to my email. And I'm going to call you at 9 o'clock tonight once you got your kids to bed. We have a deal? This is part of the button up, okay? So they go home, they run their numbers, they scan their forms to you, you bring them up, you get them on like now a Zoom call, right? Or a Google Hangout or Skype call, whatever you're gonna do. And you look at the 2 properties and say, look, there's something about these 2 properties. One is gonna differentiate itself from the other. She'll say, we can make 2 offers, but if you can only buy 1 house, it's better to only make 1 offer. Which one of these houses can you most likely live without? If you could only have one, which one would it be? And you narrow it down to the final one. And you say, look, we're going to make an offer tonight. And if we get beat out, we got this other property as a plan B. So let's get moving. I'm going to draw up the offer right now. I'm going to email it to you. Right now we have, DocuSign and Dotloop and all that. Well, Dotloop's going away, but DocuSign, okay? I'm going to send you the offer. I want you to digitally sign it. You'll be able to do that. You don't have to print anything off. I want you to write a check for your hand money, and I want you to take a picture of that or scan it and email that to me back with the offer along with your proof of funds or your pre-approval letter, whatever the case is. So if they're using cash, it's proof of funds. If they're getting a loan, it's a pre-approval letter, right? And you tell them you're going to submit that offer tonight, and you will. And you send the other realtor a message saying, I just submitted an offer to you for 123 Main Street. No need to call tonight. I just want to make sure you know the offer's in your in-basket. Please respond to us first thing tomorrow, right? And that's how you do the button up, okay? You work with a sense of urgency. You create a sense of scarcity because it's real. I'm telling you, the good properties, the process we go through to narrow this down results in our clients getting the best properties, not the most expensive, not the cheapest, but the ones that make the most sense, okay? So you're doing your absolute level best to be a good consultant, an advisor, a guide. You're guiding them through the process. Remember, they're the hero and you're the guide, right? So it draws them in. They're part of the process, and they don't see that they have an option. They're like, yeah, I get it. And they do. Now, if they don't, you got another issue on your hands. They might not have met all 5 criteria: ready, willing, able, timeliness, motivation, right? You got to have all 5 of those. So if you get this down to this point and they don't pull the trigger, there's something else going on, right? But in most cases, they'll pull the trigger. And if people always wonder, how the heck did I get 65% of my offers accepted? It was because of this process, because we didn't fool around with the other stuff. We only went for the absolute best, the ones that make the most sense, and we acted fast. We moved, we jumped, we did not fool around. If anybody ever said, well, I'll wait till tomorrow, I'm like, you're going to miss out. You watch, it'll be gone tomorrow. And sure enough, it will be gone. You know what I'm talking about, right? And that will happen sometimes. You're going to get beat out. Even in spite of your best efforts to move quickly. But the point is your consumer will learn, usually the smart ones will learn the first time that they do have to move quickly. And this is why we follow the process. So let me just check the comments here. Hang on one second. Hey, Shannon, how you doing? Good to see you. Shannon's asking, how do you recommend an agent like me who has no knowledge of rehab costs learn these costs so I'm more effective during these showings? So one thing you can do, Shannon, is you're on the team, so you can go to the RealFlow system and start playing with the rehab calculator. Rehab estimator. The cool thing about that tool is it's geared to use data from your region. So anybody that's on the team, you're like windows in LA would cost differently than windows in Indianapolis. Okay, roofing shingles would cost more. Labor costs would be different. So that calculator takes into account what part of the country you're in. It just takes all that into account, labor and parts. So it does the estimating for you. You can also go to, there's like Home Depot, contractor's desk. There's what's the Lowe's has a, I forget, I think they call it the Lowe's go-to desk or something like that. Lowe's used to have an online system you could go to and pick out your material and do a pricing that way. I like the Pro Desk because they would basically, you could ask them work in the labor and they would work in the labor. So Shannon, if you haven't done that before, I would do a dry run to test it out. But also that the rehab planner is an excellent tool. So whatever you do, Shannon, with any clients you have, you're already on the team, use that tool. It is uncannily accurate. I mean, I've seen estimates. One of the guys, John Hyatt in Maine, he already was using it. So no, it's like within $100. So that would be a real good way, Shannon, to get started. For everybody else, if you're not on the team, do it the old-fashioned way. Go to Lowe's, go to Home Depot, take a makeup project plan, right? 6 windows, cabinetry for a 12 by 12 kitchen. You can put anything you want in there, and they'll give you an estimate. Okay. So in any case, that's a good question. I appreciate you asking us. Let's see. Hang on, let me go back here, guys. That was Shannon's question. And Shannon, really for everybody, honestly, the best thing to do is just practice. Practice with makeup projects, and you'll eventually get to practice with real people and real projects. And most like flippers, they're coming already prepared with some kind of education. If they're not educated, just have them take the flipping program, for example, or the rental program. I mean, if they do, you get credit for it, right? But at least now they're prepared. Okay, so Melanie, can you please tell me what you put in each block again? I had a realtor do that to me before, crumple it. Oh yeah. So, and by the way, Melanie, did it work on you? Because it did for me too. So in any case, yeah, I like it. So here, what we're doing, Melanie, is we're laying the listings out side by side, assuming in this case there's 6 listings. And at the end of the day, once we've gone through the properties and I've had them tally up all their figures, I put in here on each listing the listing price, which is already there because I just circle it, their rehab costs that the consumer came up with. So Shannon, remember, the consumers are doing this work, right? They're coming up with the rehab costs. And then the ARV. So Melanie, the ARV is, after repair value, which is synonymous with an appraiser's opinion of value. It's really what the house would sell for in a fully marketable condition on the market. That's what ARV is. So I put those 3 in each of the properties. Okay. So we got the listing price, rehab costs, and ARV. The listing price, I should probably point this out, guys. Listing price in and of itself actually doesn't mean anything. Okay, particularly to investors. But it does mean something relative to other factors. So listing price means something relative to the ARV or relative to the real market value or the as-is value, and also means something relative to the rehab cost. So, for example, some people might say, I'll go for the property with the lowest list price because I can get the best deal on that, even though it may have a bigger remodeling project. That's actually, I wouldn't do that. I've learned from experience. I would rather pay more for a property that had a smaller project. Because I can tell you, anybody that's ever remodeled a kitchen or a bathroom or done any kind of flipping will tell you it's very difficult to have a project come in on time, on schedule, and under budget, right, or on budget. It usually takes, I mean, for me, I've had them happen that way, but I mean, I flipped a lot of houses. So I literally had one, well, start to finish, the final sales price was exactly what I wanted to the dollar, and the rehab cost was within less than $100 of my projection. Actually less, so I just saved some money somewhere. But back to this, I would rather have a smaller rehab project with a higher price, because when you have a bigger rehab project, there's more things that can go wrong. It just happens. There's greater risk. So there's like a risk funnel, right? So in any case, that's why I'm saying list price is only important relative to other factors, okay? So the factors are the total cost of rehab, what you believe the ARV is, and current values in the area, and current value of the property as is value, okay? So you put that in all the properties, Melanie, and then you literally go through and you have them, process elimination, which is essentially for taking the ARV and subtracting the project cost and the listing, the purchase price, and the net is what they're looking at. So they're going to look at the ones with the highest net. The ones with the lowest net, that's the one you crumple up and throw it away. So I wonder who that was, because I actually learned that from Anna Jenkins. She was one of my students, and she and her husband Rick, by the way, guys, they're now really traveling the world, doing work for, like, they have an RV, and they'll just do the work from an RV. They have a property management company they run, brokerage company, they invest themselves, and they're like the ultimate entrepreneur. I mean, when they're home, they don't want to have a pet because they travel a lot. So they'll open up their house, their pet sitting business, and they'll bring in kitties and puppies and make money petting all these puppies all night long. And then they do all kinds of other stuff with their properties. But in any case, she's the one that taught me this, right? And I was like, that's brilliant. So in any case, it draws people in as part of their process. At the end of the day, it's like, oh, that's the one I need to buy. Boom, you just planted that seed in the brain. So brilliant process. Okay, let's see here. Had some more questions. Let's see, can you please, this is, hey, Helene, how you doing? Ready, able, willing, motivated. Oh, so it's timing, motivation, readiness, willingness, ability. So that's the 5 things: timing, motivation, readiness, willingness, and ability. Okay. Ability is, do they have the funds or the credit to do that? Timing, of course, is timing right now. Motivation is like, find out what their why is. Or say, you know what, I'm 62 years old and my 401k sucks. I need income now. So that's motivation. Readiness is like, they'll tell you with their actions. They'll be calling you up. Can we go look? Can we go look? Can we go look? So I'm trying this. Willingness is they actually follow through. They're willing to take action. So what we do, Helene, is that one of the reasons we keep people so engaged is we want to determine if they're action takers. Okay. And then finally, the ability, so they have the financial resources to be able to pull it off. So you got to have all 5. If you're missing one of those 5, you run the risk of something not going right. Okay. Let's see here. Chris Latham. Oh, thank you, Chris. So guys, Chris put this in here. You should be able to see this in your chat box. It's a book called Estimating Rehab Costs, book by Jay Scott. Thanks, Chris, for sharing that. By the way, Chris, welcome aboard, man. So in any case, so back to this. You guys like that? And this is another one where, remember I told you we got about a 65% batting average. In other words, about 2 out of every 3 offers we made ended up getting accepted. It also resulted in me being able to do easily 2 to 3 transactions a week. That's what I was doing, because I would go out and look at, properties anywhere between 2 or 6 days a week. And sometimes I would work on a Saturday morning, but not very often, because I did scouts and softball and all kinds of stuff. But regardless, I'm probably looking at average of properties 3 days a week, an average of 6 properties every single time. And for every 6 properties, we would always get 1 deal. Okay. That's the math. I mean, if you're ever looking for what metrics do I need to have, that's the metrics. That's the metrics. If you follow the system, you follow the program, you only will physically look at 6 properties on average per showing. You might have to do some extra homework on 1 or 2 or 3, but ultimately get 1 offer in. And every 3 times you do that, you'll get 2 deals. Okay. So in any case, And I wish I could tell you I nailed it the first time out of the gate. No, I didn't. It took me about 3 months. Okay. But after about the 3-month period, I hit my stride, and those were the numbers. I literally did 110 transactions my first year, doing just exactly what I just showed you. So, in any case, hey guys, we got one more thing to cover tonight. Ooh, hang on, we got a lot more chats coming in. Hang on one second, guys. Let's see. Okay, Thomas, how do you reduce your liability of missing items on a rehab list? Do you use home inspectors, or are you under contract, or do you have the inspector review the rehab list? So, Tom, this is the beautiful thing about having your clients do the work. Remember, when we went through the properties, I wasn't filling out the forms. They were. Remember, I said the 3 figures on each sheet. ARV I get from the listing, right? I'm sorry, the listing price. The ARV, I do use comps for that, okay? And I could, so you have data to substantiate what your ARV is, but they came up with the rehab cost. So that's an excellent question. And the answer is remember, I teach you guys in class, when I teach class live, I always say, remember, they do the due diligence, not us. This is different than owner occupants. With investors, if you ever had an investor say, hey, Tom, man, can you just run the math on that and tell me what you think? I would politely say, I'm sorry, I can't do that, Gary. I'm a certified investor agent. And the reality is, I can't make the decision for you. I can give you the data. I can give you the tools. I can even give you the inventory, and I can guide you, but you have to make the decision. I mean, same thing with owner occupants, but it's more critical with investors. So excellent question. And by the way, I have a lot of investors who never use an inspector. I'm not one of them. What I did, Tom, is I used an inspector on my first 3 properties, and I paid them, $350 each inspection. But I said, under the condition that you let me follow you around like a dog and teach me everything you're doing. I did that 3 times, and I started doing my own inspections. And even on my contracts, my offer, I would say, I'm not a home inspector. I'm doing my own inspector. Do you acknowledge I'm doing my own inspection? And you can choose to accept it or reject it. But in any case, either way, I was doing my own inspection. But I learned how to do it first. That's on my properties. On my clients' properties, nope, I do not do that. Okay, let's see, Shika. Nope, can't see. He only sent to panelists. Oh, all right, hang on one second here, guys. Let me retype that. Hey, Shika, check your settings. You might be set to only panelists, but let me go back to and copy this from Chris, and I'll plug it in. And Chris, your setting may also be set to just panelists. I'm not sure. So I just retyped the book title in there for you guys, if you could look at that. Okay, now let's see. Okay, let's see. That was Tom's question. Thank you, Thomas. Shannon, okay, does this process work when inventory is low? How do you make this work when there's not a lot of properties available? So Shannon, we always use it. So in a market like this, we're more likely going out there, and we're actually finding the properties ourselves, like using RealFlow, for example, or the old-fashioned data gathering technique, which is we've got to either pay for it, pay separately, the probate leads, the bankruptcy leads, the foreclosure leads, divorce leads, landlord-tenant case leads, or you can, of course, RealFlow gives you most of it. If you're on a team, you just use RealFlow, and all those properties, Shannon, those are the ones you're going to get listings with. Okay. For everybody else, you've either got to pay for it or you got to do the work yourself. You've got to literally go online and look at your public records for your county and go through and search for LT cases for landlord tenant, search for DIV and family court division for divorce. You can search for notices of default, for what's coming up in foreclosure. You can search the BK, bankruptcy records, and you can do that manually, which was what I used to do. And you can do it, it works, but that's the old-fashioned way. But you have to do that to determine who needs to or want to sell, because we cannot rely on the listing services. In fact, some of you are already probably starting to figure this out. Most of what we do is not on the MLS. It doesn't mean we don't earn commissions. We absolutely earn commissions, but it doesn't have to be on the MLS. Remember, just because something's not on the MLS doesn't mean it's not for sale. So one of the big mind shifts here is we're going to go out and we're going to create those opportunities for our clients. We're going to go find the people who need to want to sell, and we're going to create those opportunities. Now, having said that, sometimes you're going to have people who don't want to put it on the MLS because you're going to want to get the listing so you can get multiple offers, of course. But you have to do what's called an out-of-pocket listing, right? And this is why it's so important to do the booklet campaign and all the social media to keep bringing in buyers, okay? Remember, owner-occupants, we get the listing first, and then we bring in the buyers. With investors, we bring in the buyers first, and then we can get the listings because we've already got the buyers. That's how investors think. If you ever wonder why you don't get investor listings, it's probably because you didn't come in there and show them, I've got these 36 clients right here. And look, these 12 highlighted in yellow want a property just like yours, right? And then they know you can walk the talk and you come in with confidence and they're going to sense it. Confidence is everything in this business. So when you come prepared with buyers, you will more easily get the listings from the investors, okay? And then when you get those listings, of course, you get more people calling you, and you can either shuffle them off in referrals or keep them yourself if you want. But in any case, so Shannon, technique, I never wavered from this. Once I learned it, I did it every single time, and because it works. So now you might not be able to find 30, you might not be able to find 15, but I'm pretty sure you can find 8, 10, or a dozen properties by using those techniques. Okay. So in any case, let's see here. Oh, hey, Helene, good to see you. Thank you. Estimated recap costs, we did that. Okay, Shika, mine is set to panelists and attendees. So Shika, did you get it when I just typed it in before a moment ago? Let's see, David Edwards can't do pocket listings anymore. So David, is that just, well, this is my understanding as well. That's Alicia McCann. So you guys are in the same area, actually. You guys aren't too far from each other. Well, here's the thing. This comes up all the time. Remember, there's some consumers who demand that their properties not put on the MLS, okay? Now, just so you know this, I suggest you get the thing listed. I mean, we're going at it, we're going out there working, and so when a consumer says, and I'll give you a script, by the way. So let's say, David, you're at the property, and you're got the appointment to go through and take pictures and do your evaluation, and you get them, you sit them down, and you do the button-up process. You do this, right? Okay. And you let them see for themselves what to think for shelf for. They say, well, David, why don't you just introduce me to Mr. Wilson? Okay. And you would say, well, I can do that. I can bring Mr. Gary Wilson over tonight, but let's face it. I know he wants a property like yours, but can I guarantee he's going to want your specific property? This is you, David, speaking to the consumer. And of course, most people would say, no, you can't guarantee that. We can't guarantee that. They'll say, great. Now, let's say he does like, let's say Gary likes your property, but that doesn't mean he's going to make an offer. I can't guarantee he's going to make an offer, can I? Well, no. Well, you know what? Let's assume Gary does make an offer. Here's the situation for you. He's got you over a barrel because this property is not listed to the public. He's the only one seeing the property. And Mr. Wilson's going to negotiate with you till the cows come home to wear you down to get the price he wants because you got no other players in town, right? So I would use that, and I would say, by the way, isn't it in your best interest for me to sell your property and show it to the most number of people, bringing in multiple offers, which does what for the price of your property? Of course, the answer is it goes up. And I would generally get the listing then. Now, every now and then, guys, you're going to have somebody say, I want to sell it, but I'm whatever. I'm going through divorce or I've got to, something. They just don't want to list it. At that point, at least my understanding is, we have an obligation to serve the consumer. The challenge is it's the boards that are starting to do this. The boards that own the MLSs. See, some MLS systems are owned by the brokers in the area, maybe 4 or 5 of them. A lot of listing MLSs are actually owned by the boards, okay, but not all of them. What they're doing is they're protecting themselves. They want to get the income. They want to get the revenue because every listing you put out there, you got to pony up a little bit of money. That's why they do it. There's no federal law that says somebody can't sell their house with a realtor and not put it on the MLS. Those are board rules. If that's the case, you have to let the owner know, say, look, I want to help you sell your house, but it's the law. The board will not allow us to sell your house without it being put on the MLS. Okay. So in any case, that's the scripting I would use. The first part I've used before. The last part, my board never did that. My board was broker owned, and they didn't have those kind of crazy rules. Let's see here. We got a lot more comments. It's just always that subject. Usually, when I do that script, by the way, that brings up a lot of discussion sometimes. Let's see. Clear cooperation. Yeah. Sheikha, yes, David, the rules have changed. NAR rule, this is David, okay. Within one business day of marketing property to the public, the listing broker must submit the listing MLS for cooperation with other MLS participants. Public marketing includes, but not limited to, flyers displayed, I can't read the rest, in windows, yard signs, digital marketing, on public-facing websites, brokers' website displays, including IDX and Valve, digital communications, email blasts, multi-brokers listings, sharing networks, and applications available to the general public. Okay, well, that's different then. That says open to the general public. See, to me, a pocket listing is, I'm not marketing it at all. I'm just calling my buyers. So I see what this is saying here, guys, but it's pretty clear. It says public marketing, right? So if you're going to market that thing publicly, they're saying then you got to put it on the MLS. But what they're not talking about is if you're doing what we used to call private sales, we didn't call it pocket listing, we called it private sales. This doesn't look like that stops at. That's my understanding. It's talking about, bulk emailing, email blast, flyers, social media, all kind of stuff. Yeah, you would want to put it on the MLS. Okay, awesome. Love that close. Thank you. You're welcome. You're them correct. Well, I would definitely do this, guys. In spite of what I just read there, that's my interpretation. I'm not a lawyer, but from what I understand from that, that still protects private sales. Because let's face it, consumers, it's their property. They have the right to decide ultimately, right? The rule is to stop coming soon marketing. Yeah, I knew about that. So what we do there, guys, is this: you can't market a property if it's not ready yet. We never did that, by the way. What we would do is we'd say, recently remodeled, you got to see this place, no showing until. And that's how we got away. We would say no showing until. Okay. So I don't know if you can still do that, but that was our way of getting around that rule, is to say no showing until. We would say put it out there on a Thursday or Wednesday, and we'd have a big giant open house on Saturday. And when people would call, we'd say, you got to wait till Saturday. Of course, some people would have to go drive by. And if the guy's out there cutting the grass, they'd stop by and, hey, man, I like your house. Can I make an offer? That happened. But that no showing until worked for us. Okay. All right. Real quick, I got to get this in because I promised Shannon this was the key thing for tonight. If somebody gives you an objection because of the COVID, all right, like, for example, why would I buy a rental now? Because the renters are being told they don't have to pay the rent and they won't get evicted. So it's like a double whammy. And I know that that's happening because I hear from multiple states. I don't agree with it. Obviously, I think it's flat out wrong and illegal. I mean, so now you could have two broke people and one of them with a mortgage, right? So just imagine the idiocy behind that logic. Well, the reality is this: doing a straight rental is only one exit strategy. So what I would do is this: I would first off remind them that what we're going through is only temporary. Okay. The rest of the world is not going to be like this forever. This is going to last a month, 3 months, 6 months. We don't know. It's probably going to go up and down at least twice. Okay. But every time we go into retraction mode, right? Some people run scared, right? And they circle the wagons and close the doors and close the shutters and don't do anything. But what do real true investors do? Right? Warren Buffett said it perfectly. When everybody's in fear, it's time to be greedy. When everybody's being greedy, it's time to be fearful. In other words, when everybody's going nuts, right? You know, just money prices going through the roof, money flying out the windows. Maybe hold back because it's about to come to the end of the market. I can tell you we're at the end of a market. I've seen this is my fifth time. We're at the end of. I can't tell what's going to happen tomorrow or next month or even this year, but it's going to happen. Okay, we're going to have a big correction. But in any case, so Shannon, this is what I do. I say, look, this is only temporary. Every market always goes up and always goes down. The really smart investors are waiting for people to be fearful so they can jump in and make low offers. So perfect example, Airbnb. People who Airbnb right now have been sweating it out. They've been dropping their rates, going with high vacancy rates, things like that. Would you agree they're probably really interested in selling right now? Well, it's the same thing with traditional owners who've had tenants not paying their rent. You see what I'm saying? Your investors should be making offers on those properties, right? Contingent upon the tenant leaving, of course, and they pick up a property for a song, then they go and rent it out or turn it into residential assisted living. So bottom line is this is only temporary, and smart investors always see the opportunity in the adversity, all right? And Shannon, use that language. Don't hold back. Don't be afraid of offending somebody, all right? Say that. Say smart investors usually see the opportunity in the adversity. When everybody else is running scared, they swoop in and get the good deals. Any case, we talked about Airbnb. On the reverse side, I would say right now, if you're looking to get an Airbnb, probably be a good time. I know I just said that they're got to have high vacancies, and they've lowered the rates. It's true, but it also means there are people who want to sell, right? And then maybe you could turn it in like residential assisted living, which was the next counter, which is say, look, there's more than one ways to have rental properties. Okay, you can also have what's called residential assisted living, and then given that whole spiel. Okay, now those are all pretty common or responses that most people could come up with, but I'm going to give you one that most people won't. All right, so please take notes on this or write this down. There's a way you can buy a property, and it's called a rental participation mortgage. Okay, so here's a scenario. So let's say, Shannon, you got a property, a 10-unit building, and it's half vacant or half the people aren't paying the rent, and the owner's ready to throw in a towel. All right, so get the listing, and on paper, that property based on income will be worth probably half of what it would normally be worth. So then you find your buyers, you bring your buyers and say, look, here's a building that's struggling right now. It's only temporary. Remember, this thing's only temporary. Okay, and I suggest you make an offer, what's called a rent participation mortgage. And here's how it works. You say, I'm going to offer you make an offer on your property based on today's income. Now the owner's going to say like, well, holy crap, I'm going to take a bath because it's only halfway rented. So I know, but just listen, hear me out. This offer is called a rental participation offer. What you're doing is they're offering you the price based on today's income. Now what they're willing to do is, for the next period of time, could be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever, say, as they raise the rents, this is important to use this language, not fill up the vacancies. It's as they raise the rents. Okay, filling vacancies is a foregone conclusion. They got to fill vacancies. As they raise the rents, the increase in those rent raises will be split with you, the previous owner, 50%. So if you got $1,000 coming in on these units and the new owner raises it to $2,000, that means 500 of the new money goes to the new owner, 500 of the new money goes to the old owner for 1, 2, 3 years. It's called a rental participation mortgage. And usually it's enough to get people interested in buying the property, because as they increase the value, they get more money, and they pay out's only temporary. And for the seller, they feel like they're not just giving the thing away. They feel like, okay, I'm going to make it, I'll sell it low now, but I'll get some extra money coming in over the next couple of years. And I've used it myself. It's one of those rare techniques that works in certain situations, like a place with high vacancies. So does that make sense what I just said there, guys? It's called a rental participation mortgage, okay? Awesome. You like that one, Sean? This usually works really good with bigger properties. We've used it for 30-unit buildings, things like that. And it also helps if the current owner has a low mortgage balance or no mortgage. It also helps if the buyer can put down a lot of cash, because Shannon, later on, the buyer can go refinance later on. Once they've improved the value of the building and they've done the payout, the 50% payout, now they got this brand new shiny building that's making a lot more money. They make it a brand new mortgage on it, and we call that like the BRRRR method, but it's BRRRR with management, not with remodeling, and they recoup their capital and go out and do it again. So I think it's one of my favorite all-time little sneaky, tricky Gary Wilson tricks. Okay, let's see. Got some more chats coming in. Okay, so Melanie, what are your thoughts on discounting the rent for this COVID and the property may not cash flow for a bit and then have a graduated rent later after this passes? I know people are doing that, Melanie, but I would suggest looking at other alternatives first before anybody makes a quick decision like that. It's usually, I mean, I will tell you, I've done that before. In the last recession, thankfully I had, a lot of equity and a lot of properties, and we were okay. So instead of me taking bad tenants, which was a lot of owners who said, I'm not losing my rent, but they would take any tenant that had a pulse, then they paid for it. I would rather get a good tenant in there and lower the rent to attract a good tenant. So yes, I would say in certain circumstances, I would support that. But we have other alternatives now, like residential assisted living, for example, or Airbnb, right? There's those other alternatives. And by the way, just like in the stock market, guys, once something goes down, let's say the stock market drops from, like it did, 30,000 to say 16, let's say it went from 30 to 15, it lost half its value. But in order for it to regain, go back to 30, that means it's got to grow by 100%. 15 to 30 is 100% growth. So same thing in rents. Once you lower your rents, just be aware it may take you some time to bring them back up to the real value. So just a slight word of caution there. Okay, look at the opportunity and diversity. Let's see, Shannon. That makes sense, and I like that. Thanks. I have heard some investor gurus say that it's bad to buy at the end of a market. Better to wait until it's things drop. Thoughts? Yes, I know investors will say that sometimes, Shannon, but I learned a long time ago. When it comes to rentals, it's always a good time to buy. So we have this saying in our mastermind group, Go Abundance, which is don't wait and buy and wait. And I'll give you a perfect example of this, guys. Okay, before the last recession, right, at the top of the market, right, the market was at whatever it was, I forget, 7,000, 8,000, 9,000, something like that, okay, at the top of the market, right? Now, if you'd have bought the top of that market and then you waited out through the recession and back up to the next market, it was at 15 or 16,000 when the new president took over, right? When Barack Obama left the White House and President Trump took over the market, essentially Barack Obama doubled the market in 8 years. So what I'm saying is, and that was now the bottom of this market. That 16,000 is the bottom of this market. So let's say you bought at the top of the last market, 8,000, and you bought at the bottom of this market, 16,000, you still would have doubled your money. See, investors know this, the ones that are in it for the long haul. And that's why I never stopped investing. I just kept going. I would buy fewer properties at the top of the market, and I would be more selective, and I would use different strategies. I would use different purchasing techniques. For example, I would do like a lease option on a property. I would get a master lease on a big building, okay? And everybody knew we're at the top of the market. I would say, look, here's the deal. I'm going to structure this so that you're protected and I'm protected. This is another Gary Wilson technique if you guys want to write this down. I would do a lease option on the property, and I would say, but we're going to set the price equal to an index at the future purchase date, okay? So if the market goes up, I'm going to pay more. If the market goes down, I'm going to pay less. And I would get investors to agree to that. So if I felt like the market was going to go down, I would put that in there. The market would drop. I'd say, okay, I'm going to exercise my option. Here it is 2 years later. And they'd have to sell or they would be in breach of contract. So keep that in mind. That's another option at the top of a market is get a master lease on the property with an option, and the option would be based on an index, okay? In any case, that was another one of my favorite little tricky, neat little things here. Let's see, we got more, but you guys are really getting your money's worth tonight. Let's see, would you have an attorney prepare that type of an offer? In the early days, Alicia, I did. My attorney today is the same attorney I've had. He's been in the business 45 years. He's probably 70 something years old now. But in the early years, he took me. He was on the board of directors for one of the banks I went to get my loans from. And he has a famous blog called Legal Backtalk, by the way. We've since become more like I would cry if I lost him. That's how important he is to me. There were times when I was going through all my life-changing events, and I'd be on a long road trip, like 10, 12-hour drive. There was one time, guys, he talked to me for 7 hours straight on a road trip. Okay, we talked about Abraham Lincoln. We talked about dogs. We talked everything. We're both history nuts. That's the kind of guy he is, and he's my attorney till one of us is no longer here. But in any case, what I'm getting at is, I learned a lot from him. A lot of what I'm teaching you, I learned from him. And over time, I would write my own contracts, and I would just have him review it. He wouldn't even charge me anything, or he would sign it for me, right? So your bottom line is, in the early days, I'd say absolutely yes. If you're uncertain of anything, get the right kind of legal or accounting advice. Let's see. After this, David, I have to jump to another book. All right, hey, David, thanks again for all your help, buddy, and I'll see you on the next call. Melanie says, gotcha. I've got a house with a HOA. Yeah, HOA complicates things, Melanie. I mean, obviously they can put a lien on a house. They can foreclose on a house. They got all kinds of power. Hey, Melanie, did you get a hold of Michael Smith or Richard Bear? Just let me know that. I sent an email out, I think Thursday or Friday. They're good guys. Let's see. Thanks to all participants. Can you do a future class on rental property due diligence, confirming rental income is real and expenses are not understated? Absolutely, guys. You know, it's funny. We were supposed to cover that stuff this month, but we just kept going with the marketing. So I promise in the month of July, we will dig into calculations and analysis and things like that. And you'll feel way more confident about going out there and helping your clients look at properties and helping them with the right tools. Remember, Thomas, back to your question earlier, I'm not saying we're taking a shortcut when we have our clients do the work. What I'm saying is we're going to be so competent and confident in our own ability that we can guide them through the process. They'll have the material, they'll have the information, they'll have the tools, they'll have the inventory, and we won't let them make a mistake, okay? But we cannot make the decision for them. If we see something missing, absolutely, Tom, when you asked the question, I didn't answer that part of it. If I see that they didn't account for appliances, for example, I'm absolutely going to speak up, okay? So thanks for bringing it up, by the way. Let's see, we got a few more good here. Melanie says, that's awesome, not yet, but I will, and thanks, it's efficient. Oh, thanks, Melanie, you're very welcome. I think that's it, guys. I think that's the last question. Okay, awesome session tonight. For the Global Investor Team, I'll see you guys Monday night. For everyone else, I'll see you the following Monday, July 6th. And how about we started on some analysis and calculations and stuff like that. By the way, I think it was Tom's. Tom, thank you for pointing this out, guys. The online calculator, the rental property online calculator, something's going on with their system. That's not something we own. It's a vendor system. I don't know what happened. I tried it myself. I got the same thing. It's just something's messed up about it. So I got to call into them. We'll see if we can figure that out. But we have at least, I think, 3 other calculators that we use anyways. Hey, Tanya, good to see you too. All right, guys, I hope you have a wonderful evening, a great, if I don't see you next week, great Canada Day for fellow Canadians, and a great 4th of July. For those of you Americans, Canada Day is on July 1st. So wish Louis Racette happy, Canada, Louis, gosh, I'll give you a phone call. Hey, Louis, do me a favor, use the link to set up a call with me. Because I've been burning the candle at both ends, and I'm not getting back to you. I'm getting calls lined up for you for Canada, for Ontario, Toronto. List of names, numbers, emails, the whole 9 yards. So we definitely got to talk. So if Louis, if you could do that, that would be awesome. All right, guys, have an awesome night. God bless all of you and your families. Have an awesome weekend, and I will see some of you next week and everyone else the following week. Okay, let's see. Oh, Alicia. Thanks, Lee. Hey, Alicia, set up a call with me. Did we miss a call? I think we might have missed a call, Alicia. I'm not sure. Oh, Shika, yes. So Shika, the webinar. So Shika, if you want to participate on Monday nights, I know you're kind of teetering. If you want to be on the Teams meeting on Monday, just shoot me an email. All right. Because I want you to. We're moving forward. I want you to be part of that. Otherwise, we'll see you the following Monday with the rest, all the students. Okay. See you and learn on team members Monday. You got it, Shirley. Okay, guys. Have a good night. Adios. Oops, let me hit the recording first. Hang on 1 second. Stop recording.